Hello, folks. On the near eve of the arrival of a U.S. ambassador designate to South Africa, Brent Bozell, the United States Embassy has posted on its X account, Twitter, its objection and its view on the designated terrorist group participating in South Africa's naval exercise, Will for Peace. It used to be Operation Mosey 3. They renamed it. And I read the following from U.S. Embassy X account. The United States notes with concern and alarm reports that the Minister of Defense and SANDF defied a government order regarding Iran's participation in the ongoing naval exercises. Iran is a destabilizing actor and state sponsor of terror, and its inclusion in joint exercises in any capacity undermines maritime security and regional stability. It is particularly unconscionable that South Africa welcomed Iranian security forces as they were shooting, jailing, and torturing Iranian citizens engaging in peaceful political activity South Africans fought so hard to gain for themselves. South Africa can't lecture the world on justice while cozying up to Iran. And in the second post, and permitting Iranian military forces to operate in South African waters or going to Tehran and expressing solidarity isn't non-alignment. It's choosing to stand with a regime that brutally represses its people and engages in terrorism. And once again, I will say quite clearly, South Africa is a sovereign state. The African National Congress can do whatever it wants vis-a-vis international relations, but its friends are Cuba, communist oppressor, China, human rights violator, communist oppressor, imprisoning Muslim Uyghurs and harvesting their body organs, attacking its neighbors, Korea, Vietnam, Nepal, other friends, Russia, which invades all its neighbors, Venezuela, and of course the state sponsor of terrorism, Iran. But it's not just the state sponsor, it's actually a designated terrorist organization that's participating in this exercise. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is a designated terrorist organization that has funded, supported, and participated in terrorist actions around the world. And they've been welcomed with open arms in South Africa. But the relationship between the South African Defense Force and Iran is strong, as we saw from the chief of the SANDF visiting Iran at some point in 2025. He said the following: the armed forces of Iran, including the Islamic Republic of Iran Army and Ministry of Defense and Armed Forces Logistics, possess significant capabilities in various military, tactical, and industrial fields. These capabilities can be utilized in cooperation with the Armed Forces and Ministry of Defense of South Africa to serve their mutual national interest and enhance regional and international security. To which I say, you don't need Iran. You just need Eswatini, whose military arguably is probably better equipped today than the South African National Defense Force, which sends troops into peace enforcement missions in the Congo, a peacemaking mission, a combat mission without body armor, without helmets, without tents, without boots, without uniforms, soldiers buying their own. No medevac capability, no call for fire, no discipline, no training. They sent soldiers to their crippling, mangling, and death in the eastern Congo. This is what the South African National Defense Force did. This is what Minister Angie Motshekga did. This is what the government of South Africa did. It cares not for its soldiers, nor does its chief of defense force, who talks about friendships with Iran when he can't even supply boots to his troopies. South Africa is a sovereign state. They can choose whatever friends they want. But let me ask you this question. What has South Africa gained by this exercise? Nothing. Nothing. Interoperability with rogue nations that run afoul of the very organizations that South Africa purports to be supporting and demanding a rules-based international order, when China, which ignores the International Court of Justice decision on the South China Sea and their fake 9-dash line, they simply ignore it. They attack Filipino and Vietnamese ships at sea with water cannons, board their vessels illegally in violation of international maritime law, and the South African government says nothing. They imprison Uyghurs and harvest their organs and rape them in prison. South Africa says nothing. The Iranians slaughter thousands of people in the streets of Iran. The South African government says nothing. Well, to their credit, after almost 3 weeks, they said something today. Nicolas Maduro imprisons his political prisoners, rapes them in prison, executes people, steals the wealth of the country, enriches his friends and partners, and 8 million Venezuelans are forced to leave Venezuela. South Africa says nothing, except that they love Maduro and Chavez, and they endorse what happens there. These are your choices, ANC. You make them. You've made it clear. Stop lying to the world that you're not aligned. You're aligned. You're part of an axis of evil. There's no other description to it. What exercise are you doing with NATO countries, with ASEAN countries, with ANZUS countries, with the United States. Nothing. Nothing. Just a fake BRICS Plus exercise with a rogues gallery of rogue states. The United States has called this out, and lots of evil leftists, black supremacists, and leftist lunatics are already commenting and making ridiculous comparisons to things in the States. They have such short memories. They've forgotten about Maracana, Cyril Ramaphosa. They've forgotten about Pala Pala, Cyril Ramaphosa. The Vrede dairy farm scandal. Zandile Goumeda's 168 counts of fraud. Dr. Zwaylam Keezy's digital vibes fraud case. The asbestos tender deer for Ace Magashule, who's disappeared from the planet. And the list is endless. Where's the $5.3 billion in 2020 that was given to South Africa by the IMF, the World Bank, and the African Development Bank? Where did that go? No one can explain where that money went. Where's the $1.4 billion that the IMF just gave to South Africa a few months ago? No one can explain where that money went. These are your choices, South Africa. You voted for this party, and you get them. And that's your prerogative. Do what you want to do. But don't try to blow smoke up the world's skirt. You are in league with the most evil regimes on the planet. There's no two ways around it. Cheers.